Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Have You Ever Played podcast, the only podcast written by the writers of Borderlands 3. I'm Matt, aka Matt Fondude, and who am I with?
I'm James, aka James04E.
And it's been a minute, James. I've
Yes,
been on a hiatus because I've contracted the novel coronavirus. I am recovered and right now.
recover
So there may be
anding.
some coughing on the mic, some coughing ASMR.
Don't worry,
I
I'll
will
match
try
every
to not
I'll match every single one of your coughs.
Smack. Yeah, it's like a donation. Double it or give it to the next person. Um, that was a stunt cough by James. That was not me.
Damn.
Anyway, yeah. So because of this illness, basically around New Year's, I got COVID,
hmm
and that besides like literally just spending a week slash multiple days just sitting on the couch, just actually not doing anything. I did play some video games, and we're gonna get into
Jeez.
the weeks. We're gonna get into our weeks this week, I guess, but also you can talk about any holiday stuff. But I wanted to
Yeah.
talk about right off the bat. James, do you remember Dark and Darker?
Yes, I do recall.
Remember that game? Um,
Yeah, I recall them being in some hot water the last time I heard about it.
so yeah, the last time I think we talked about them was they were like under some weird legal some hot water with Nexon potentially about stealing assets for their
hmm
game or using stolen assets. I don't really know what happened with that.
hmm
Um, all I do know is that it was on Steam for their betas, and then the game released, and they're not selling it on Steam. But I
Where are they?
downloaded their.
Oh, it's
What's
their
up?
own launch. Oh, is it like their own launcher?
Yes, I downloaded their Bitcoining mining launcher called Blacksmith, and it's great because it's like the BattleNet launcher, but it has one game in it.
hmm
Or it's like the Witcher 3 like CD Project launcher, which has like 3 games in it. Um, I love a good launcher, but
Yeah, I'm also a launcher enjoyer.
uh,
Big
I
launcher head.
big on launchers.
Yep.
It's actually I believe I'm checking right now to see if it's still on sale. The reason I got it is because I actually enjoyed that game. And it is actually currently on sale right now. It is 30% off for a quote holiday sales. It's $24, and honestly, for $24, um, it's a fun game. I hope it is not stealing my credit card information or doing nefarious things because the
hmm
game is pretty fun. Um, I tend to just die over and over again and not really make any progress
The
in the
classic.
in the game. Um, yeah, did you play it a lot when it was in that weird beta testing phase?
Not a lot, but I did play it.
Did you enjoy it at all from what you played?
Yeah, it was just kind of okay.
It's for people who don't know, Dark and Darker is like an extraction shooter. Tarkov, I guess Tarkov is the big extraction
A
shooter.
Tarkov like.
Tarkov like, but with like people dumb it down to be like it's Skyrim combat, but it's like a first person medievally game. Um, and it's pretty fun. I like the weird medievally. It's PvP PvE stuff. Um, I've been playing solo so far and pretty much exclusively dying. Um, I'm playing the archer, which is or ranger class, which probably isn't. I can't tell if they're busted or terrible because all
hmm
the like they used to be really good, and all the Reddit posts for are like when the game was basically on Steam because it feels like the community massive drop off because it is not on Steam.
Yeah, I imagine.
Um, so I see a lot of people being like, "Are they busted or are they terrible?" And like, I don't really know yet because it feels kind of bad at the current moment where I will like get into a game. I will like miss my shot and then get like one shot kill by someone walks up to me. I'm like, it feels terrible. I think it's a skill issue. Um,
Mayhaps.
I think it's a skill issue, but I don't know. It's like for $30, it's fun. I think it is a solid $20 to $30 game.
Pog.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
heckin' love solid $20 to $30 games.
That's a good place for your game to be on like a non-sale zone. Like
Hmm.
that's a good place to live for a game, especially a multiplayer game. It feels like it's really hard to convince friends to buy a new multiplayer game to play with you. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Especially when it's like I feel like there's a curse of buy the new hotness, like buy the new multiplayer game that we're all playing, and then 1 week later no one's playing it.
yep, every
Yeah,
time.
but at least if it's $15, it's worth it for a week. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like a Lethal Company, which I would like to play more of that, but everyone I know has dropped off of that game completely.
yeah.
So I
I
don't know.
bought it, and I still just haven't like played it yet.
I'll play it with you. Maybe we'll get some sessions in. There's like like surprisingly to me, they actually didn't like Among Us the situation and actually
They
have been putting
didn't
in new
Among
content.
Us the situation.
Yeah, they didn't Fall Guys or Among Us the game, and by that I mean wait, strike while the iron is frigid and release content like a year later.
Hmm.
They're actually releasing content for the game, so that's cool.
Pog.
Yeah, so that's the state of that situation with that game. Like that's kind of all I have to really say about Dark and Darker. It seems like they added some more stuff since the closed beta or the open beta.
Hmm.
Um, it feels fine. It's cool. I've been playing a really good other game recently. This really good game by a good company called Maplestory by Nexon, the best company of all time. Um,
Yes, I heckin' love Nexon.
I don't know why I got back into Maple. I've talked about this maybe on the podcast. Every like couple of years, or like every once a year, I get a Maple Story nostalgia, and I'm like, I read up on it for several days about like, man, I want to play the old game, and maybe even go on a private server and be like, well, that was fine. Um,
Hmm.
but I did it. I dove headfirst into Maple Story, the current version of the game, which is just like a flashing light simulator. Um,
I heckin' love flashing lights.
yeah, I'm not having a terrible time. It's probably one of the worst
Huge
times to get into the game right now because there's a ton of controversy with
flashing lights. Huge Kanye fan.
yeah, good song, but good basis for a mushroom game out of Korea. That's probably what they based
Yes.
the game on. Um, so
Mushroom game out of Korea.
did you know that MapleStory has been having some weird like issues right now? It's been having some like big backlash. Are you aware
No,
of this weirdness?
no, I have not
So
been informed.
recently, I'm gonna spread some misinformation because I don't know the true story, but recently one of the big controversies with MapleStory was there was like a patent or something. There was a file that came out for the Korean version of the game in which Nexon had copyrighted, or like they had I guess it's a patent, right, or something. They had a claim to these systems of RNG which had very like sus naming implications, and these
Hmm.
systems of RNG for like things like if you have well, actually, to explain, in MapleStory, one of the big things in the game, there's two servers. There's two types of servers. There's the main servers that have trading available, and they're like the main game. And then there's
Hmm.
the reboot servers, which are basically like the free to play servers where a lot of the progression is based on in-game currency and not like pay to win. To a point, there's more controversy I'll talk about
Hmm.
with that, but it turns out that Nexon is probably rigging all of the rates on these items called cubes in the game,
Hmm.
and cubes are used to respec your weapons, and you get like three lines in the game. You get like these three different attributes to your weapon.
Yeah.
It turns out that they are probably rigging all of this stuff, and it has been like speculated that they've been doing this. Um, and
Hmm.
there's like lawsuits and things, and they're getting in trouble with different like regulatory bodies in Korea, and yeah, so it's really cool, and people are spending tons of money. Whales are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on this game, and they're just for things that don't exist. Like there are certain combinations there are certain combinations that people are trying to go for their like items that literally cannot be created in the game currently, which I think I've read that they are at one point possible to get, but they silently removed them from being available, so people are re-rolling forever for things that don't exist. And there's like no good like rates available, and it's just like basically a cluster dumpster fire, and super not above board with gambling laws and stuff. So they're restructuring how the game is working to probably circumvent a lot of these gambling laws.
Hmm.
Which leads to the additional creepy bad thing they're doing of basically turning. So they're basically like, okay, we got caught, so we're gonna make it so that all these servers act like the reboot server, where you can spend the in-game currency to get the items you used to have to pay for.
Hmm.
But now there's a limit on how much in-game currency you can get per day, and people are speculating like, okay, so they're gonna probably just monetize a service where you can pay more money to get more in-game currency to then use it for gambling to obfuscate the layers of gambling. So you're basically paying money to gamble still, but they can get around gambling laws because you're not directly paying, because Nexon's a cool company.
Yeah,
Um,
that sounds pretty epic.
Yeah, they also sell $100 pets in the game that they're called VAC pets. And back in the day when I played Maplestory, there was a thing you could like called VAC hacking, in which players who hacked could like use one of the hacks would be you could take every item in the map, like all the drops from enemies, and suck it into your character, and they've turned that into a
Jesus.
pet that you can buy for $100 on a limited time. So FOMO, buy it this weekend, otherwise it doesn't come back for like a year or something. Buy this $100 FOMO pet, and the best part about it is it's a $100 upfront fee, and it lasts for like 30 days or something, and then you need to pay $15 a month to get juice for your pet, so your pet
Get
can,
juice for your
yeah, so
pet.
pay $100 up front and a $15 a month subscription service per character in a game that makes you have many alts. So whales,
Hmm.
buy up now. Everything in that game has always been like a monthly fee, and it's awful.
Damn.
But yeah, so I decided to start playing now because it's the worst time to play, and the reboot servers might also get changed where like the one gimmick is the gimmick of the reboot server is that you can't trade. It's like Iron Man from RuneScape. You can't trade with other people, but
Hmm.
they're like better rates and better drop rates and stuff. They're just gonna get rid of the better rates and drop rates, so it's basically just gonna be a regular server that you can't trade on. So it's just gonna be bad.
I
Oh
see.
yeah. So that's that game. Nexon really just being a cool company, just squeezing every penny out of people. Um, and I guess that could lead into their other published thing. Don't they publish the finals that game? Did you play any
I
of
think
that?
so. I installed it. I just never ended up playing it. I have a bunch of friends that play it a lot,
I also
but I'm not
installed it and then didn't play it.
not the biggest. Uh, what's the word? I'm not the biggest arena FPS head.
See, I feel like I would enjoy it potentially. I like bad monetization and
I like
Nexon
bad
games.
monetization.
I don't know what their like horrible monetization is in that game, but I'm
I'm
sure
actually
it's
that reminds me. I
cool.
actually have a horrible monetization story for this week as well.
Let's get into it. Let's throw it over, James. Why
All
not?
right, wait.
We're
Let
gonna get
me.
it go
So
very
I
like.
need to open up good old Apex Legends for this one. Give me a sec.
It
Um.
feels like all we play are games that are dailies and just depressing. Because I was
Okay.
also playing Overwatch 2, which I can
So
talk
to be
about
fair, I did play
later.
something different. Not this week, but like since our last episode. But I'll talk about that after Apex because this is
Yeah, what's going on with Apex?
okay. So we all remember the Apex trailer at the Game Awards for the Final Fantasy VII crossover,
Yeah,
right?
yes, you're correct. I
Okay.
completely forgot about that until you brought it up. But
Okay.
yes.
So that started on January 9th.
Hmm.
And so the big thing with the crossover is that normally so Apex has multiple kinds of events. The main event is a collection event, which is 24 items. And oh my god, Apex is compiling shaders. This is going to take like 5 minutes, but I'll do my best from memory. So there's usually 24 items, and each item individually. So there's 12 rare or 12 epic items and 12 legendaries. The epic ones usually cost like maybe like $10, and the legendaries are like 20. And you can get a chest that gives you a random item for $7 roughly.
Mm-hmm.
And so normally what'll happen is if you buy all the items in the collection event, you'll get an heirloom, which is like a melee weapon, like it's just a cosmetic thing. Um, you get a recolor of a previous heirloom, or you get a prestige skin, which is just like a really cool skin for your character that like
Is that
evolves.
random, or do you get to pick that?
It depends on the. So they come with the events normally. So what it is so the total cost for these is usually like $160, I think.
Oh my
And so
god.
you get all the items, you get the corresponding item that goes with the event, like the final item, and then when there is not an event currently going on, what you can normally do is I think it's one in every 500 like regular loot boxes will get you a currency that you can use to buy one, and you can just choose whichever one you want.
Hmm.
But this season, Apex has never done collabs before this season, so they did a collab with Post Malone earlier this season, which was loaded fast, cool. Which was just like 6 skins or something, and it's just like you bought them, and there were some cool challenges for like stuff that you could earn in-game currency for and things like that. But this time, they went for a bit of a hybrid format where it's technically a collection event, and there are 36 items total. Lots of them are either just like stickers for your like heals. Some are like sprays. Some are backgrounds for your character banners. Then for actual cosmetics in total, there are, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So 16 out of 36 of the items are non like sticker, banner frame, spray cosmetics. So like character skins and gun skins basically.
Mm-hmm.
And so the big thing with this event, there are two things. When you get all of the packs, you're or when you get all the items, so all 36 items, either from packs or from just buying them individually, you get a custom death box. So in Apex, whenever you die, your loot is all put into like a box that people can like go through. And so what happens is this death box shows when you kill people. So instead of showing the regular death box, it shows a skin on their death box. And then for each pack that you open for the event, you have a sub 1% chance to get the mythic item, which is the Buster Sword from
Oh
Final Fantasy
god. Oh
VII.
no.
And so now let's get into the pack prices.
Yeah, I'm sure no
So
one wants this iconic weapon in their oh
so
no.
this version is only cosmetic. There's an event mode where you get like to do all the fancy moves and stuff like that. But um, so for the packs for this event, until you get to 15 packs out of 36, they're discounted. So the first one you buy is only $1 instead of the regular price. Second one is $5. Or second through sixth are $5, and seventh through 15th are $7, and then the rest are $10 from 16 to 35. And so there's a few things wrong with this. First, you can also buy individual packs with crafting metals, which is just a currency you get from opening packs normally. Like you can't pay for it. But it's 16.50, and I would say like on average you're getting like 20 per pack or something like that. And what they don't tell you is that when you buy these packs, it uses up your discount. So like
Genius.
let's say I have a billion crafting metals, right? And I'm like, oh, I'll buy up like 15 packs. I buy 15 packs, suddenly my packs aren't discounted anymore. So when I spend money, I'm paying full price. And
That
then
mhm.
another problem. So when you open these packs, or when you buy these packs, it forces you to instantly open them. Like normally you have like a little menu where you can go and like say, oh, I'll open one pack now. But no, they all instantly open. So if you buy the 4-pack bundle, which is supposed to be special because it'll guarantee you a legendary item or an iconic item. Iconic is just items that are based on the event, basically like the actual crossover stuff. Um, so yeah, it's supposed to in each pack guarantee a legendary or iconic. But if you exit the pack opening screen, which they instantly force you into, you are no longer guaranteed your legendary or iconic from each pack. It'll just treat them like normal packs that don't guarantee anything.
Now, incompetence or dark pattern or both? Probably a little bit of both, to be honest.
Yes, just a wee bit.
Yeah.
Um,
Is that going to be is that something they've addressed at all?
no.
Is okay.
Okay, and so with the sword, as I mentioned before, sub 1% chance. Though, if you do buy all 36 packs, you're guaranteed to get it. Um, but the problem most people have is the pack pricing because they're normally $7 and here they're 10. And just regular packs that get you like base game items are only 100.
Mhm.
So they're saying these are worth 10 of those packs effectively. Uh, and yeah, it's been people have been having a time with this event.
So
There have
if you
been all these
open
complaints about like the nature of the death box as a cosmetic. There have been complaints that the Buster Sword is it's the only mythic tier item in the game ever that isn't going
mhm.
to be available after the event. So if you don't buy this, if you don't get it in the event, you can never get it again.
Yeah, maximum FOMO.
Yeah. And also the only items that you can buy like individually, like that you don't need to get out of a pack, are the iconic items, so like the character skins. All the other ones you need to roll out of a pack. So if like there's some stickers you really want or something, you have to RNG it.
Mhm. So is it guaranteed to get the Buster Sword after a certain amount of packs? Is that what you're saying?
After all 36, yes.
And how much is that total cost?
36, that's $360.
Okay, well, I mean,
I mean,
without the
it's
discounts, I guess,
technically
but
less, including the
around
discounts,
that.
but yeah, it would come out to around like 250 or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, at
I don't
least
do
it's
math.
guaranteed. That's at least somewhat nice, but that's still like ridiculous.
Yeah. So
So
yeah,
it's like a
people
1% drop or like less than a
less than
1% drop.
1%. Yeah,
All right, so basically you need to buy them all to
yeah,
get
pretty
it.
much. Unless you like
That
giga luck out.
yeah, and what's absurd about that is like again, iconic item from gaming. I'm sure people I'm sure people are going to be like, "Yeah, I'm cool with missing this thing," one of those items. I don't know. I don't know what else in gaming that they could add that is just like people would like really want, and it's really really mean to just gate it behind that. Um,
Yeah, I mean, I think the main thing people are annoyed about is to see you can't buy it after, like with all the other events. This is the first event where that's been the case, pretty
well,
much.
that's the nature of these crossover events a lot of the times though, and it
Yeah.
some of it is justified, I guess, where it's like they have a license for a limited time. Recently Overwatch 2 had a K-pop event
Mm.
and some of the skins are actually really nice. Like I would have bought like the Kiriko skin everyone seems to really like.
Oh,
Um
with Apex, normally you can't buy the skins after, but it's like
mhm.
the major reward at the end, like the heirloom that you can get
Yeah.
after. But it's you're well. First of all, if you're like specifically going for it, right, you'd have to spend $500 technically because it's a 1 in 500 chance, and then yeah, I mean that's just the main thing is that people can't like randomly roll this like they can with all the other ones.
Mhm. Well, I mean, part of it is like I don't know if they'll have that license forever, So it does, but it is like annoying and it makes generates FOMO. Like it is intentionally like, well, you
Hmm.
better get it now. If you're a true fan of the series, you'll whale up and pay the money for it.
Whale up,
I've been wanting to potentially look into Apex again, but every time I hear anything about it, it's like a dumpster fire. And like it seems
man.
like the gameplay is fine, I guess, for the most part. Although I do hear about like there was a character that just came out that like broke the whole game. Um, so I've been just avoiding that. I have my own bad games I can play daily.
Yeah, Apex is weird because it's I'm trying to think how to word this. So in a game like Overwatch, right, when you're playing a character, you have like a set of rules that
Hmm.
often other people need to play by. Like for example, right, if you're like playing Winston and you use bubble, like people have to respond to that. If you use alt, right, you're in alt, right, like nobody's gonna like take that away from you or something like that, really.
Yeah, no one
Whereas
can
in
take things away from you.
yeah,
Oh,
and then in most character based games, where skill comes in is in cases where you're able to break the rules, right? Like sometimes, like a really good Ana will use like sleep dart to shut down your primal rage or what as Winston or something like that.
mhm.
The problem with Apex is that's kind of backwards, where the lots of the fun of the characters is locked behind like a base skill level because it's mostly gunplay first. The abilities aren't nearly as high impact as other games, and lots of them have like a bunch of caveats. Like most ordnance abilities, like airstrikes and stuff, like the airstrikes in this game, they like slow you when they hit you, in addition to doing damage. But the problem is they also slow your teammates if they get hit.
Hmm.
So it's like the placement has to be pretty different, and it's like that's the case for most things that like slower CC in this game. And yeah, it's just it's kind of hard to get into the game, to be honest, just because of the way that impacts the learning curve. Because it just doesn't, it's not as like presentable, I guess, as like Overwatch is, for example.
Well, I'm not just saying from like Overwatch to whatever. I'm just
Hmm.
saying like in general, it is also one of those things of like hopping into a game like later in its life of like there's overload of kind of too much. Like I don't even
Hmm.
know where to begin.
Yeah,
Plus
I
I don't
mean,
really like BR kind of games. I know there's other game modes at this point, but
yeah, I mean, Apex does do a lot for like sensory overload. Like it's pretty crazy.
mhm.
I think one of the funny things one of my friends says is like, Apex is it's the game basically doesn't tell you why you died. Like it's like imagine you get grounded by your parents, right? And you ask them why, and they say nope, not telling you, right? And so then you're ungrounded eventually. You're kind of walking on eggshells, not trying to do anything. Then one day they're like, you're grounded again. It's like, why? Well, I'm not telling you. It's like that. Like my friends will say, like I can sneeze and die in Apex.
That sounds fun.
Yeah,
Um, I
but
had to
it's
explain to a person who doesn't really play video games the concept of playing a game that you hate every day, and just like, why do you keep
oh
playing this
boy,
game if you hate it? And it's like, well, you don't understand. It's like you gotta play. Like it is a weird thing. Like I think Overwatch 2 has become my sort of hate play game.
yeah.
Um, I definitely don't really seem to have that much fun every match of the game. Um, I feel like losing is terrible and winning is terrible
I
so
believe what
far
you're
at the moment.
describing is addiction.
No, I don't play it like, and I'll go for like, I'll stop playing a game like this for like a year, and then I'll play some other game. Like I'll like cycle in another hate play game, like a Rocket League or something like that. And it
Mm,
starts out fine, and I think that's the reason it is you the reason people play these games. Like at first, it's fun, and then the more you play it, and the more updates that come out that just like are bad updates, just make it so unfun that you're every match you're trying to get that like enjoyment you got out of it at one point in time, but
hmm.
it's not really the same thing. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, and then doing I hate dailies. I think dailies might be one of the worst. Dailies, weeklies,
dailies.
that stuff is probably the worst. Like retention mechanics I think is worse than loot boxes and battle passes and stuff. Although battle pass
Yeah.
is kind of a retention mechanic.
It's actually really funny. So there's an Overwatch podcast that I listen to sometimes just because some of the people talk about like interesting overall like game design stuff.
What podcast is it?
I think it's called like the SVB podcast or something like
Is
that.
it the Group Up podcast?
Yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah,
SVB does that. Yeah, I also
yeah,
listen to that.
yeah. I listen to it sometimes.
Hmm.
But yeah, they have a lot of cool takes. And I remember there was one episode where they were like, do you think we should introduce a third mode? Slightly more serious quick play. And I
Oh
was like,
yeah,
damn, damn,
there's a
that's
lot of
where
good
we are.
choice.
Like, oh my god, because
Well,
apparently people that are grinding their challenges are like ruining quick play games.
the problem right now is that uh, right now the next season of the game they're changing competitive a ton. So right now competitive
Hmm.
doesn't mean anything, and the competitive mode is bad.
Yeah.
So quick play, and I usually pretty much only play quick play anyway too, and it basically is like sweatier than competitive is quick play.
Hmm.
And the developers have said in like an interview recently that they want quick play to continue to be really hardcore. Like they want it to be as competitive and serious as competitive, which is causing some weird issues of like, why don't just play competitive then? Well, competitive is bad, and hopefully the new season fixes competitive and people will, play that. They're trying weird stuff right now with quick play. They're doing a module version. They're doing like a weird version of quick play called quicker play right now,
Oh yeah, I
Um,
heard about that.
and I think I enjoy it somewhat, but I think it's also terrible because you lose like one team fight and like you lose the first point, or like you lose the match basically.
Yeah,
And it's
it's
like
funny. It's funny
I
because
don't
I was
know.
actually hearing some people say like, "I just want to play regular quick play. I want to play quicker play," and I was like, I was sitting here like, "Damn, first time." Because Apex does that, where
Hmm.
instead of doing, they used to do limited time modes. They still do sometimes when it's like very fundamental changes to the game systems, but when it's not, it's usually what's called a takeover, which is just the trios mode is just the event.
Hmm.
So with this Final Fantasy event, right, you have the Buster Sword, and it's obviously it's OP, right? Like it kind of has to be.
Hmm.
It's got a heavy attack that does like 60 damage, and characters have like max 225 health. It's got like a
Hmm.
lunge attack that can like launch people into the air, and you can combo them and stuff. And it's got like a block. Like if you've ever played Titanfall 2, it's basically just Ronin.
Mm.
Like they actually reuse a ton of assets for it too, but or rather animations, I guess, because you can get like limit break, you can get like infinite dashes, and you can just you can quite literally with a limit break, you can get like halfway across the entire map.
Well, like I know you're probably saying like, well, it's kind of annoying because people want to play the regular
Oh,
mode or
I
whatever.
don't mind it personally, but people are complaining about it.
But it like spices things up, and
Yeah,
Overwatch 2 does not really do that ever, and it's just boring because it's so meta heavy. The game
yeah,
that like Mauga came out was broken. I mean, there was some weird pay to win stuff with that. Like buy the battle pass to get the broken character for a week.
mm-hmm.
Broken the busted character. Like I played Mauga on tank role, and I'm like, wow, okay. This fundamentally changes how you have to play the game. The other team has to turn also go Mauga, and you have to shoot each other, and it's
Yeah. I've heard
stupid.
Mauga isn't very fun to play with, as, or against.
Well, don't worry, they nerfed Mauga. Now Mauga is literally terrible. Like I rolled I played tank. I play all the roles now at this point, just like going around
Mm-hmm.
whatever. So I was playing the other day, and someone went Winston. So I was like, oh, I'll go Mauga because maybe even though he's nerfed, that's still a pretty good counter. I literally like spawned out of the game and just instantaneously died. Like it felt like none of my abilities did anything anymore, and I'm like, oh, okay, so they just nerfed him into the ground.
Yeah,
Um,
I
but
heard they buffed
Overwatch,
Orisa at the
they
same
did.
time they nerfed Mauga though.
They gave Orisa no damage fall off like in Overwatch
Uh,
1 for some reason. Orisa, notable, most boring white piece of toast character. Literally
no,
the most boring. I've never liked any iteration of that character.
no,
So boring.
famous
Like
character was
boring design.
very famous character with very different gameplay from Mauga.
Yeah, it's just a boring character with a boring kit with a boring design.
Yep.
And that's what I'm working toward on the battle pass this season is a boring mythical skin for the boring character on a battle pass full
Well,
of boring skins.
well, it could be worse. We could still have what is it? We can still have the original Orisa.
Yeah, who is
Uh,
also somehow more annoying and more boring.
I actually kind of like I think I like Halt more than I like the spear.
I
Hot
don't
take.
know. What was Halt? Wait, Halt, the like
It
the
was like the
attraction
ball that
orb?
you threw out that would like drag somebody in.
Yeah, but I mean that was cool, but it was like cheesy. And here's the
It was
thing, like
cheesy, but like I don't know. I think it was more interesting, at least.
yeah, but they're trying to remove like all CC basically from the game, which is fair.
Well, so it's actually funny. I remember I think they initially said like, yeah, CC should be a tank thing,
They
and
did.
and they gave all the supports more CC.
Well, right now the problem with the game is that tank feels useless, DPS feels useless, support feels insane. So I've been playing all the roles right now. It feels like when I get on
Hmm.
DPS, I'm like, and also every match feels like we're either dominating or getting stomped. Like, and I went on a quick play. I think it was like a 15 or match like lose streak or some absurd lose streak, which is sounds like a skill issue, but it really felt like it was just unfortunate. And I played all the different roles, and I usually am fine. Like, and it wasn't like oh you win a match. It was just like so much so awful, and then I would like get back, and now it's back to kind of normal, like a 50-50 sort of thing. Um,
Hmm.
but I feel so much more impactful when I'm playing support right now. And it's funny because it used to be a support felt like you would just not be able to do anything. Um,
Hmm.
but now I play like Ana, and I'm going on Ana, and I'm like killing the enemy team. I'm like healing up my team to insane amounts. Someone will dive, like a tank will dive me. I'll 1v1 them and handily beat them because I can just heal myself. That's the problem. Like Kiriko and Ana right now, Kiriko can like two shot people with headshots, and like I just get bullied, especially when I'm playing DPS. I just get bullied by Kiriko, where I'll
Hmm.
be playing Ash or something, and Kiriko will just like walk up to me and like headshot me, and just like full heal, or like Suzu like can become completely immune, and I'm just like okay, because to duel a support as a DPS, they're doing the same amount of damage as you as a support, and they also have like 3 health bars because they
Hmm.
can heal themselves and stuff. But I don't know. It feels pretty bad to play anyone besides support right now. But I do like how they're doing weird changes. Like quicker play is interesting. Next season, they're giving everyone a minor version of the support passive, so everyone will
Hmm.
be able to recover health. Have you heard about this?
Yeah, I heard about that.
Which you know what? Cool. Maybe it'll make it like. I think my problem is so Overwatch is a team game, and they're kind of moving away from. They realize a lot of people play by themselves, and it kind of sucks. And the people who play in
Hmm.
teams, it sucks to play as a team, and it sucks to play solo. So they're trying to balance it where it makes team play better, but solo play better, and it makes no sense.
Yeah,
I don't know. It kind
I
of
think
sucks to play that game as a
I think they might
solo
slow.
player
I think they're gonna slowly move away from like the
from
major
team.
differences in roles.
Yeah, I don't know.
Eventually, eventually, we're all just gonna be the same.
The problem is, right? Overwatch 2, I get that it's a big team game. I should probably just play a different game, but there's nothing that really quite feels like Overwatch 2. I guess the closest would be like Valorant, I guess.
Hmm.
Um, but I like the skills and abilities. It just really feels like sometimes, depending on your role, especially, it feels like if you don't have a team that's willing to be like, if your team is bad, you just will not be able to win the game. And by win the game, I mean like sometimes if you're playing a tank and you just see your healers go like and you're not like Reinhardt or something. You're like playing a tank and they're just like Lucio like Lifeweaver or something. They're just some like characters. Or I guess more like they're like Lucio like Zenyatta, and
Hmm.
Lucio's trying to dive their back line, and Zenyatta is like trying to go for kills, and you're like, oh, I'm a tank, so I guess I should switch to like Roadhog to self heal maybe. Then you get countered, and it's like, okay, like you can be in a position where you just cannot alone like change the outcome. That's why it feels so impactful to be support, because it feels like, oh, I have the power to swap on support and like save the team basically. Like, and DPS doesn't feel like that really either. Where it's like DPS, they're kind of in the background. Like, hey, you're useful to getting like a couple kills sometimes. But it's like if you have bad supports or people who don't want to play like a support that can help your team, like you just cannot do anything. Which makes me feel like when I'm playing the game, it's like I want to queue support because I want to have control, some control over the fate of this match. You know,
Hmm.
um, I don't know. It feels bad to play the game, and I don't know if they should make it more solo friendly because it ruins the entire point of the game. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
at the same time, I don't think people really play 5 stacks. Like, I don't think, and at the highest level, you can't even queue with your friends anyway because in comp because it's like it doesn't allow groups. It's a whole situation.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, so competitive games that are based around solo queue are really complex in a way because at a high level, they don't usually mind too much because everybody kind of knows their role and you're just like slotting in, sort of. But I think
mhm.
for the rest of the community, it can be really rough. It's like if you're not on the way up, then it's kind of sad.
Well, what sucks is the game is if you have a team play, any amount of team play immediately is like, okay, you're gonna devastate the other team. And I mean that is like these kind of games anyway, I guess. But it doesn't feel like you as an individual you can be all that impactful. Like in Counter-Strike, you if you're like it is very team heavy, but if you're like a god, you can carry the whole game like by yourself. Um
Hmm.
And I don't know if that's. I mean, Overwatch isn't really about that. I should maybe just play a different game. You know what I mean? Uh, but it does feel bad. Sometimes it just feels bad. And also the fact that if you're playing quick play, they've been punishing people for like leaving
Hmm.
matches. I haven't really hit any thresholds, but like some games you just want to leave because I play games pretty much with like chat all turned off, like all text chat anything.
Hmm.
If I was to play on competitive, I would have to talk to people and turn chat on. So I don't want to do that because honestly, I don't really want to like get home, log on to my daily game, and just get like berated by people. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Um,
Okay. So, side note.
yeah.
You probably see that I was laughing a second ago. So,
Hmm.
in a group chat that I'm in a Discord group chat, I just got roasted for sending the same thing that somebody else sent earlier. And as you probably know, ever since Elon Musk took over Twitter, tweets don't auto embed in Discord anymore.
I did not know that.
So you have
I
to
don't
like click
really
the tweet to
do
see it.
that.
Like if it's just like an x.com thing. And
Oh,
so to
because they need you to log in, basically. Right.
something like that. I don't know the exact details, but if you use VX Twitter to replace the X part, then it's fine. It'll embed. And so
Hmm.
I always embed my tweets. My friends never do. So I'm like, well, I'm not gonna click on the tweet that when I'm like scrolling through stuff to see if somebody else sent it. I'm lazy.
That seems very fair.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, no. Anyway, end to end rant about Overwatch 2. I don't know what they can do. It's hard to make. It's hard to balance a game to be fun. I think maybe if they just did more events, that could be cool. Like I don't know, like bring some of the magic back of like, oh, Lucio Ball, that's fun, or like do it Fortnite or any of those other like big mega games are doing, and just like spice it up, change things, like drastically change things. I think maybe this weird like passive that we're all getting and quicker play. Maybe there are spicing things up because
Hmm.
at least if the game is bad, it's like bad for like a week and everyone's kind of like, learning the meta. Like if they keep shifting
Yeah.
everything, then it's, a little more spicy and not just the like, okay, switched, I gotta be this tank. Like they're playing this tank, I gotta be this tank. Oh, they switched, I gotta switch to this tank. Like just the counter swapping the game
Yeah.
constantly.
Yeah.
It's
I
like,
do think it's definitely better to have a dev team that makes these like I guess you could say big swings and is willing to like kind of step back on it or revert it than a dev team that's kind of afraid to make like wide sweeping changes.
mhm.
Like it's a lot more interesting also if they're just experimenting, right? Because like you can only sign on and play a relatively similar game so often, right? Like eventually it
Yeah.
gets boring.
Yep. Um, but they'll keep me retained with their daily mechanics and stuff. I actually really like battle passes as a concept if they're used in a way that like no company really does it except like Halo I believe did it, like Halo Infinite, of the buy a battle pass anytime and just work toward it
Hmm.
at your own pace. Like actually I really like the progression system. It gives me a reason to play the game. Like I feel like I'm working towards something. It's the time gated aspect of like you better finish this in 30 days or you'll never get this. Even though you paid for it, you'll never get the reward. Like
Yeah, I think weren't wasn't Overwatch doing like a little bit of that where if you get a mythic skin, you get to like choose. I think they
they're
talked about that at
experimenting
BlizzCon.
with that. They haven't done anything with that yet.
Yeah.
I think we just need better practices with battle passes and just like it's almost more annoying to me in a game like I have the battle pass for the season. I also don't really like any of the skins on it. And I'm like thinking of next season. I'm like, well, if maybe if there's something cool on it, I think the value of the $10 battle pass isn't actually that bad of a value. It's just like the scumminess of like, all right, now I gotta be forced to play this basically every day, a little bit every day,
Hmm.
and every match is like worse. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah.
And when I get in these daily game habits, I end up not playing like better single player games. So I think that's a much preferred groove that I get in of the like playing like an older game that I have not played single player game and like really like immersing in that rather than just playing these like kind of daily things. These like but I don't know. I go back and forth between that.
Hmm.
I don't know. I've been playing a bunch of other games. I got Hogwarts. I think I talked about this like last 3 times. I got Hogwarts Legacy
Yeah.
to work. I haven't actually played that in a hot second.
Hmm.
Right now. Um, yeah, maybe we could do some questions. Unless you have anything else you want to talk about in your week.
I do have one more thing. So,
Hmm.
yeah, there was obviously a Steam Christmas sale,
Oh yeah.
and I bought a few things. So, first major, or I guess I'll actually do this one last because it's the only one I've played. But so I bought Lethal Company. This wasn't on sale, but so my friends are like, "Hey, we should play Lethal Company sometime." And then
Hmm.
we just haven't played it. Um, I also bought Mirror's Edge, which
Okay,
I
good
haven't I
game.
haven't played yet. I played the demo on Xbox a while ago, like Xbox 360, but I never played the full game. So I'm interested. Isn't there also a sequel to this game?
There is a Catalyst, a lesser known sequel that no one really knows because it's. I think it's supposed to be
I heard
okay.
it wasn't great.
Yeah, I think
I
it's
believe
supposed to
that's
be
why.
okay.
Yeah, I believe that's why it's. I mean, yeah, the sequel came out. Geez, 7 years late, 7.5 years later.
Hmm.
It's a long
Mirror's
time.
Edge is a really cool game conceptually. I really like the art direction and how like they basically made a mechanic of like runner's vision. Like the things that you can interact with are like one color. Everything's white and like red
Hmm.
is interactable. I think it's really clever. I
Ooh,
always
I didn't know this was a dice game.
yeah, I always confuse it as like a Valve game because I feel like that in that time period it felt like a Valve kind of game. Maybe also because Still Alive is like the theme song and not to be confused with like Portal Still Alive.
I feel like I've always known it was an EA game. I just never knew who the developer was.
Yeah, Dice, and then Battlefield fame.
Yep. Um,
Notable non-controversial developers of games that have no controversy.
it's funny because lots of former Dice devs from like the quote unquote good Battlefield games are on the finals now.
Huh. The finals is I think the only like I have not played. I downloaded it and then I couldn't get people to download it to play with me.
Hmm.
Um I think the only big negative that I can see is just that Nexon publisher is just Nexon. Just Nexon is like the mark of death for any game in terms of like having non gross like monetization.
Hmm.
So, um, yeah. Although we got Dave the Diver, which is I hope they can't gross make it a single player game gross monetization, but
Yeah, I've
I
heard good
played a
things about
little
Dave
bit
the
of that
Diver.
recently.
Yeah, I've heard good things about the game. I want to try it someday.
Yeah, I played a couple minutes of that recently.
Okay, and then the last two games. So I got the Mass Effect Legendary Edition because it was like $7. Like
Okay.
at that point, how could I not? I played Mass Effect 2 on Xbox 360 back in the day. I might have told this story before. But I was basically at the end of the game, and like I was about to do the final mission. I said like, oh, and one of my friends basically said like, oh, you have to get the nuke gun, get the gun that shoots nukes first. And I'm like, how do I? What do you mean? How do I get it? And he's like, oh, you have to do like a like 10 more missions. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so I got halfway through, and I'm like, I don't really want to play this game anymore.
Classic.
So yeah, I never ended up finishing Mass Effect 2, and then I believe I played the Mass Effect 3 demo, and I got the full game, but I think I played a little bit of the co-op. I did like a couple missions of single player, and then I think I just traded it in.
Oof.
Um, but yeah, it was my relationship with Mass Effect has been interesting. But I was like, maybe I'll play all the Mass Effect games now,
Hmm.
and so yeah, and I also got Mass Effect Andromeda because it was only like $15, I think. I don't know if it's good yet, or if they if
Notable mid
or
to
if they
bad game.
improved it. Yeah, but
Notable mid game.
it was big on sale. I'm playing all the other Mass Effect games, and like, well, if I finish Mass Effect 3, I'll probably just play Andromeda, right? Like, it might as well.
Yeah.
Um, and so right now I'm on Mass Effect 1. I've been playing for about like maybe 10 hours or something. And so
How's that car?
oh my
How's that
god,
driving?
oh my
Notable
god,
one of the worst drivings
the
in
driving's
games.
so bad. It's so bad. I
Did
hate
they
whenever they
fix
make
it
me
at
do it.
all in like the
No,
remastered edition?
no, not really.
I'm
It's
sure
still
there's elements that are probably better.
well. I think one of the weirdest things when it forces you to go up like mountains a lot, and you have to do like the Skyrim thing where you do like the little jump spam. And the way that it makes you land, where it's like you can't land on your back, so it'll always somehow morph you to land on your tires. It just
Wonderful.
looks so goofy. But yeah, I'm trying to remember exactly where I am in the story.
I
I
don't
can't.
know because I own the collection. I've never played a single one of those games
Yeah, no,
either.
I can't remember for the life of me.
Are you
But
playing a male or female character?
playing male. So it was actually interesting. I wasn't sure what class I wanted to do, and I wanted to do Vanguard and Mass Effect 3. That's all I knew. I think when I played Mass Effect 2 on Xbox, I did Soldier. I might do that again because I hear that Vanguard kind of sucks in Mass Effect 2, or at least it's like very buggy.
Mm-hmm.
And I doubt they fixed it. Um, just because I haven't heard anything about it. And whenever I refer to like guides, they're not updated to say, "Hey, it's fixed in the Legendary Edition now" or something like that. Uh, but yeah, so I'm playing Vanguard, and one thing I realized very quickly is that for those of you who don't know, the way stats work in Mass Effect is you have three of them. There's biotic, combat, and tech. And in Mass Effect 1, each stat basically has like a set of abilities that it has. Like, biotic has like the throw ability, lift, all that stuff. Tech has like some hacking abilities, and combat has like stuff that makes your guns better. And so they have this like template of these abilities, and what they do for the hybrid classes is they just merge the templates basically. So you have like half of each.
Hmm.
So they're not necessarily unique classes. It's just like, well, I want some of both of these, so I'll just take them. Whereas like in later games, it's like the Vanguard, who's like the soldier and adept or slash mage hybrid. They have like a teleport ability where they can teleport on top of people and like blast them with a shotgun. But there's none of that fancy unique stuff in Mass Effect 1. So when I initially played, I was like, well, my abilities aren't that unique. Like my party members are inevitably going to have a lot of overlap with me, and with the way that the skill trees work in this game, a lot of the time you have to skill up a certain skill enough to unlock the next one. So like in my case, one of my major abilities was the throw ability, and one of my companions, they have the throw ability as well, but I want to get lift from them so I can like lift people in the air because I don't have that because it's not part of my combo character thing. It's unique to the adept class. And so I had to give them like a really high level throw to get to get lift. And I'm like, well, I have lift, but I feel bad about a lot of these skill points.
Yeah. Does that game have respecable skill points?
No, I don't believe so, but I think it's a type of game where you'll inevitably get enough to get everything. I'm pretty sure,
Okay,
or almost everything.
that's good.
And
I
it's pretty generous with leveling up and stuff like that, so it's not bad.
I, I think it's pretty egregious that Hogwarts Legacy, the game I've recently played, does not have respecable skill points and does not
Ooh,
have enough skills to get all the skill points for the
unlucko.
talent tree.
Mm-hmm,
Uh, luckily I play on PC, so there's like people made a mod that's like there's a potion that you can buy to respec. It's like something that should be in the game.
mm-hmm,
I think it was actually like in the game files, but they just didn't implement it or something. It seems
yeah,
insane, right? To not have, and it's like, how would you ever experiment to know what you would want if you don't have respecable traits?
mm-hmm,
You know what I mean? Insane
yeah.
in current age, I just can't
Well,
handle.
that's why you're supposed to read guides.
I did, and that makes it worse. Like I don't want to read guide. Like I think most games nowadays, thankfully, have respecking. It's like there's no reason a single player game, honestly, there's no reason any game should not have respecking. I understand that
Mm-hmm,
like they could be like, well, then you could respec for different parts of the game and like make it unbalanced or whatever. Like if you respec for every fight or do whatever, it's like just let people do what they want to do. You know what I mean
mm-hmm,
with respecking. I
yeah,
know MMOs and those games. Usually if they're scummy like a Nexon, usually it's like if it's a Nexon game, it'll cost like real money to respec, but at least they have an option.
mm-hmm,
Um, don't lock me into things like that. Especially, it's like, how are you supposed to experiment with skills if you cannot respec? You know what I mean? It's very stupid.
yeah. But so yeah, I had initially when I found out about the way that the skill trees are, I was kind of like, well, I just kind of want to speed run to the next Mass Effect game. So I started speed running the game, and then rare occurrence, I started enjoying it. So
Oh,
I'm like, wait a second, the story's actually kind of good. I'm interested now, and that I feel like that is very rare for me nowadays because even with Cyberpunk, right, the story was good, but it wasn't good enough that I would like I would be like locked in at all times
Yeah.
when I'm doing like the dialogue decision and stuff. Like I did the incorrect dialogue decision once because this game is weird. If you tab out and then you tab back in with left click, it left clicks in game.
Oh, classic.
Yeah, so I did that wrong thing once, and I went back to a save that was like an hour earlier,
You got
just
it
so I
in a
could
game like
do the
that.
right decision.
Yeah. Um, I hate that is like a nightmare. There's a lot
Hmm.
of games that I have like that where I'm like tabbing it, and sometimes it does that, and I'm like, oh my god, is this gonna like? The worst is like you click something, it's like confirms some nonsense or like
Yeah.
delete save file. Like that's not real often happening, but just crazy.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I guess let's do like one question before we end the podcast. If you have any
Sure.
questions, you can email us at hyeppodcast@gmail.com. That's hyeppodcast@gmail.com. Well, James, I'll ask you a question from the list. Let me go through
Okay.
the wonderful list. Oh, here's a good one. Um, do you have any games that you know that have really great replayability or like a post game?
Ooh, really great replayability or a post game.
Yeah, I feel like that's two very different
Yeah,
games.
I definitely have one. I just need to remember it.
Mhm.
Because there have been some single player games I've like played the shit out of.
Well, I think while you're thinking, any Souls game, pretty
Oh yeah,
much like
yeah.
any Souls game has both of those things. If you like New
I
Game
think
Plus, I've never really done New Game Plus, but
yeah. The first like
uh,
tangible thing that came to mind was when I played Dark Souls 3. I think I played through it like 5 times.
yeah, those games have like
Something
infinite
like that.
replayability with
Yeah.
different build. Like any, you can play that entire game with like one weapon change, and it's a fun new experience, basically.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think the bosses also just very. I mean, obviously they have to be replayable if you're dying to them a lot, right? Like
Hmm.
if you've died to the boss a lot, and it's like, well, I actually don't want to fight this again. Really, this is kind of stupid and silly, and it's not really doing its job. But yeah, Dark Souls boss is very very fun to fight. Would do again. Uh, just not today.
I think it's really interesting when a game has like a post game,
Hmm.
like a good post game. I think it's really rare to have that. I think like one of the Pokemon games, I think it was Silver or something, or Pokemon. Yeah, maybe one of those games. They had a post game where you could play through the entire first region of the game after beating the game. And there was like a whole like
Hmm.
other thing. That's really cool. And I think some JRPG/RPG games do have post game stuff. Like Final Fantasy 15 has stuff to do after, like there's secret bosses and stuff. I think
Yeah.
15 honestly kind of sucked a little bit. The post game was very grindy. There is a dungeon to get the best sword in the game that is like 100 floors of like the same enemy that are all like it's literally the same design and like the same enemy that is notoriously just annoying to kill. And I did it,
Hmm.
and then it like killed any will to continue the post game of that game for me. But it is cool that there is stuff like in all the dungeons and there's like super bosses and all these different things. Um, and James just ran away, so I'm gonna fill for time. Even though this is like the end of the podcast, I don't know what he's doing, but I'll just fill for time a little bit. Oh wait, James has returned. James has returned to the podcast. Welcome back to the podcast.
Yes, I was briefly called by my parents.
Ooh. Um, but anyway, I was just talking about games being having cool post game stuff. I feel
Hmm.
like it's kind of rare for like a single player game to have a post game. You know.
Yeah, I mean, when I think of good post game, I think Borderlands 2 and 3 actually had quite
Hmm.
good post game. Borderlands 3 took a long time for it to get good though.
That sucks.
Like yeah, like I remember when I first finished the game. So I finished the game pretty quickly actually after it came out. And I go on Reddit and I was like, "Hey guys, what do you do after you finish the game?" And they were like,
Nothing.
you farm Grave Ward." And I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean I farm Grave Ward? And I've told this story before. I got so good at farming this boss Grave Ward because there's just this big guy with like a crit spot in his chest, and all his attacks just like kind of move the sage and stuff. I got so good at farming him that I could do it with one hand without looking while doing my homework in college.
Amazing.
Oh man, but yeah, Borderlands 3 post game has gotten a lot better. There's a bunch of stuff to do, and then I believe Borderlands 2 just always had a good post game.
Yeah, and those games you kind of geared up for the DLC. Like that
Yeah,
is part of some post games. It's like gearing up for the DLC. Um, but I think the like the magic of the true post game of like the a game where the developers for just like the passion of their game put in a ton of content that some people might not even like see because it's the end, a post game. You gotta turn it back on, and there's other stuff to do. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of an interesting thing because it does feel like nowadays there is an element to games where it's magical when they put in content that like 90% of the players aren't going to see, but also it does come to it is also a thing of like, why are we making content that no one's going to see? Why are we spending all
yeah.
this time developing content that
Uh,
no one's going to see?
yeah. I
But
remember there was a dev that talked about this, but I can't remember for the life of me what it was. I don't even remember what game it was, but like they said something really smart about it, about like post game content.
mhm.
It was recent. I don't know. I'll probably remember it at a really inconvenient time, but yeah, I think the general gist of it was that like the post game content is for a very small part of your community, but it's also the part of the community that's going to play the game the most, right? So like the
Mhm.
raw hours they're putting in is probably not like comparable to what the non post game people are doing, but like they're the ones that you're like updating the game for. They're the ones that you're like they're the reason why you don't just drop the game after you release it, like
Mhm.
stuff like that. So it's while they may make up a very small part of of your community, they're still the ones that are kind of keeping your game consistently played. And so you do owe them a little bit in the sense that like give them some stuff to do,
Yeah,
let
and
them
I
have fun.
think that can really make I think a hardcore fan of a game is the people who are playing that post game.
Hmm.
And I do think like the more casual people will drop off and be like, "I hit the credits, I'm done."
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know. Well, anyway, that was a podcast. I've been Matt, aka Matt Fun Dude. Who are you? Who are you?
uh I don't know.
You can find me on YouTube and Twitch. I'm gonna probably stream some Mario fan games that I've been requested to come back to because they're actually really cool. And fan games have more content in them than some games that come out today. Basically, who are you again? You didn't. You. How did you get in here?
Where am I?